Good evening, and welcome to Assumption Catholic Secondary School's Advanced Placement Night. My name is Clark McDougall. I'm the principal here at Assumption, and I want to thank you for joining us. I'm going to give a little bit of background on Assumption itself before I do turn it over to the two ladies who will be in charge tonight and give you an overview of our Advanced Placement program. Assumption Secondary School, we are the first Catholic high school in the Halton Catholic District School Board, and we were established in 1977. We have close to 1,200 students here at the school. And with our students, student voice is very important to us. We have various programs in place for our students, such as our ambassadors and our mentors. We have our student council, our athletic council, our peer tutoring program, all which employ a voice of students to be heard and to be a part of the programming here at the school. Also within our school, we have plenty of extracurricular clubs and teams. We have close to 75, most with all in-house coaches. Our teaching staff is second to none here at the school, and they take part in a lot of our extracurricular activities. We have traditional sports such as our football and hockey, to our soccer, lacrosse, and rugby. We have other sports such as our cross-country team, our golf team, our tennis team, our field sports, all which really gets a lot of student involvement. Student involvement is what is the key to success here in education. The more the students involved, the more they're successful in the classroom. Within our clubs themselves, we have such clubs as our student reach team, our investment clubs with our senior business students, our equity and diversity initiatives, to our social justice projects, just to name a few. However, first and foremost, I would like to say that we are a Catholic high school, and we infuse our faith in everything that we do. The connection between home, school, and parish is important to us, and that connection with our parents is key to educating our students here at Assumption. So I'd like you to join us in prayer. And with Remembrance Day tomorrow, we've chosen a prayer of Litany of Remembering. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. For as long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us. We remember them. They shall live forever in the communion of the saints, in the arms of God. We remember them. Our Lady of Assumption will pray for us. Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. And that's it. That's just a brief overview of the school from myself. I want to thank you once again. I am now going to bring in our Vice Principal, Mia Thomas, who is our AP coordinator here at the school, and our school counselor, Ms. Tina Dorsey, who is a part of our student services group and has the advanced placement program as part of her portfolio. Ladies, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDougall. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Assumption's Advanced Placement Evening. My name is Mia Thomas. I'm the Vice Principal here. I am also the AP coordinator for this building. With me is Miss Tina Dorsey. Miss Dorsey, maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Tina Dorsey. I'm the AP contact here at Assumption for any students who are interested in applying into the AP program. And I'm also the AP guidance counselor for students who are in the AP program here at Assumption.
Thank you. Tonight we'll be doing a live question and answer session for about 45 or 50 minutes. We've received a number of questions from our pre-registration, and so we'll start with those while we wait for the live questions to come in. Additionally, then we will be moving to a round table discussion with our subject-specific department heads in math, science, Canadian World Studies, and English Moderns, which I think you'll find very entertaining. We had a great time filming it earlier. As well, I invite you and encourage you to please look at gobluego.ca, where you will find a playlist which contains virtually all the information we could possibly give you on the advanced placement program here at Assumption. It will answer many of your questions. It has subject-specific videos. It has testimonials from current and former students. It has information from teachers, and it has a bit on our Assumption life as a whole that's not just related to AP, but who we are as a school community. And at this point, I think we'll get started. All right, Tina, let's start with the first one. And I think this one is the one that we get a lot, which is, can you tell me a bit about sort of the criteria we look for when we talk about what AP students look like in our building? And maybe if you start, I'll jump in and we'll just go back and forth a bit.
Sure, yeah. So what does an AP student look like? And I guess the answer to that is really diversified. What we're really looking for when we are accepting students into the AP program is somebody who has an interest in a particular subject, enough that they really enjoy being in a classroom, learning about that subject alongside with other students who are also interested in that subject, who like to participate in group work, and they're good collaborators with their classmates. And we also are looking for strong learning skills. So are they able to work independently? Are they able to collaborate well with others? Do they have initiative so that they're asking questions and perhaps taking on risks in that subject area, even if that means sometimes not knowing all the answers?
And you know what, I think we've done a really good job of sort of summarizing the type of student we're looking for when we go through application processes as a whole. And it's of course not just Ms. Dorsey and myself. There's a committee here at Assumption. I would also like to encourage our parent community to look at our video about what makes an AP student, because it's not just about what our committee might think would fit in well in the school. As Ms. Dorsey said, we're pretty diverse. We're really accepting. We want as many students who want to be here as possible. But that video, and I think that might be video number 2 on our playlist, that video really speaks to what students should be considering when they're trying to determine whether or not the AP program is for them. And it talks about being prepared and having initiative and being organized and some of the non-traditional ways you might think about what that actually looks like. Oh, Miss Dorsey, any other? I've got a couple here. Do you maybe want to take a question, or do you want me to jump ahead?
Sure. Yeah, I noticed there's a number of questions here about the application process into the program. A common one that I see here is, if you are applying from an out-of-boundary school, is the process different? And so just to answer that briefly, so when applying into the AP program, if you are coming from an out-of-boundary school, so one that's not within the feeder school system, I guess you could say, normally you would apply for a cross-boundary application. But if you're applying into the AP program and you are accepted into the AP program, a cross-boundary application form would not be necessary. So just proof of address, I guess, that you are in the Burlington area, living in the Burlington area, would be enough.
Yeah, and I think actually, and you'll laugh because it's that we really did do our homework and we really prepared using those questions from the pre-registration. So there actually is a playlist, a slideshow in our playlist about the AP application process. So I think the easiest way to get you started is to tell you to go to www.gobluego.ca. There's an advanced placement tab there, and right there you will find our AP application. And it's a pretty simple application. It asks you some contact questions, so we know how to contact you. It asks some questions about your grade 7 marks. And we take the grade 7 marks because right now we know our students who are in grade 8 are still working through their term 1. And they don't have all their marks yet, and they're still learning how to be grade 8 learners. And so we start with our grade 7 June report card marks. You'll go through and you'll fill through that application. It's really important to tell you that you're going to need to have a Gmail email address in order to complete that application, and it cannot be one connected to the school. So our students have a Go Blue Go Gmail address. That one wouldn't be acceptable. It would need to be a Gmail address created for this, or if you have one on your own. Once there, our students then go through the application process, and that happens between now, tonight, November 10th, and the final deadline is December 10th. And over the course of December and into January, our committee meets and we go through all of those applications. And we receive quite a few throughout the year. And then we go through and we'll hand out and we'll email acceptances in the email as provided through that application process on January 17th. Now, one of the questions I just had emailed, which fits in perfectly, is do you apply for your homeschool as well as the AP program? It's a phenomenal question. So if you are part of our Assumption Catholic family of schools, so that is, and I'm gonna, St. Paul's, St. Rafe's, St. Pat's, Ascension, St. John's, Holy Rosary, I got them. If you are part of those schools, then you will fill in your regular application as provided to you by Ms. Dorsey, Mr. Urigan, and Ms. Giannotti, who've come to the classes. And you will also complete the AP application. If you are part of the virtual school, then depending on what your regular homeschool would be, if you're still part of those 6 schools, then you would fill in the application to Assumption and the AP application. If, however, you belong to any of the schools in the Notre Dame or Corpus Christi family of schools, you would fill out the application for your home school, whether that be Notre Dame or Corpus Christi, and you would fill out our AP application. And that's really important because once we do the acceptances, we're able to transfer over. So please make sure you are filling in the application for your home school. Thank you very much for that question. Tina, one of the questions that we have as well is there priority given to people from maybe our homeschool or maybe our Catholic schools? That's one of the questions that we've been asked.
Right. So to answer that question, simply the answer is no. Everybody is more than welcome to apply into the program, Catholic school, not Catholic school, doesn't matter. We do not have a cap in the number of students that we allow into the program or that can join us in the program. We're simply looking for students that we think are going to be successful in the program and that's going to benefit the students. So yeah, everybody's welcome to apply.
Excellent. Yeah, and thank you for that, because I think it's really important. I think people worry that we're only going to take a certain number. And of course, we accept those who meet the criteria and who are interested in joining us, right? That's really important for us. I wonder if maybe we could talk a bit about the discernment process, because I think often we get questions about how many courses should I take? What should I do? How do I know? What I'm really not sure what I want to be in high school. And Ms. Dorsey, in addition to being a guidance counselor, is also one of our AP teachers. So I think I wonder if you would maybe speak to that a bit about sort of why we use that word discernment and students who are interested.
Mm-hmm. Actually, we had a lot of questions like that today. We were doing grade 8 visits, and a lot of the students had that question. You know, I really like all my subjects, and I want to take everything at the AP level. And my answer to that is that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're interested. And this is the time. Going into grade 9 to test it all out. We here at Assumption treat grade 9 very much as a discernment year. Mm-hmm. See where your interests lie, see what you're good at and where your aptitudes are, and see if it's going to lead you down the pathway that you want. And, you know, if things change later on down the road, that's actually one of the greatest things about the AP program is how flexible it is.
Yeah.
In that, you know, you can change your pathway, you can come out of it, you can move into it. And that's actually, I think, a really comforting thing to know for students who are on the fence about whether or not they should be applying into the program.
And I think our students who want to take 5, who are excited about taking 5, or even who want to take 2, worry about the workload. They have friends, they have older siblings, they say things like, "Oh, it's going to be a lot of work." And we often say really different things than that. What as a teacher, what is it that you say to your students?
So it's,
or maybe as a guidance counselor, I should
say. As both. It's not so much that it's more work. It's a different kind of work. And it's a kind of work that is best suited to students who are interested in the subject. So like the curriculum, the Ontario curriculum is being covered in all levels of whatever it is you're going to take, whatever subject you're taking, whether it's at the AP level or the academic level. The Ontario curriculum is covered in its entirety. And so I guess you could say the difference would be we try to put in a little bit more depth into the AP courses. We take things a little bit further. We explore things, do a little bit more critical thinking of surrounding certain topics, so that, the students who are interested in those topics can really, dig in and inquire, right? And figure out what, everything about that subject. And is that more work? Maybe it's a little bit more work, or maybe it's just a different kind of work, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're interested in a subject, for the most part, students find that exciting and something they might want to even do on their own anyways.
Yeah. And you know what? You do a really good job in our playlist video. And I want to say, I think it's playlist 1, talking about the differences in AP and what those extensions and that depth and breadth look like. And I think there's some really good examples, not only in that, but coming up in our round table, where our teachers really discuss sort of what that looks like. So keep watching. I think you'll probably hear a bit more about that, and go through our playlist, please, because it's got a lot of information in there. One of the things that I think is really important, because I know that somewhere there is a student watching who wants to play basketball or football, or who is a competitive swimmer or dancer, or who wants to be in the theater, and they are worried. They are thinking, I don't know if I can do this. How can I do it all? And I know in your role of guidance counselor and coach, you might have a bit of sort of experience in that. Maybe you can speak to that a bit.
Yeah. I think that's a big concern with a lot of students is I don't want to have to just go to school all day, then come home all night and work on homework, and that's all I do. And I wouldn't want to do that either. And that is not what the AP program is, and it's not what it should be.
No.
And I actually feel like as a coach, I also coach, basketball and ski snowboard here at the school. And I actually find, especially this year, more than half of my junior girls basketball team are all in the AP program. And I think we actually see, it's actually been a trend since I've been here anyways, that a lot of the AP students actually are the leaders in the school who are involved and who are pretty well balanced and like to explore even extracurricularly what it is that they enjoy. So, and again, like you said, in the playlist, there's a number of students that we talk to who will just demonstrate that.
Yeah, and you're very true about the leaders in our school. Our school, we spend a lot of time really focused on building leaders, both in our AP program and not in our AP program. And the focus really is on leadership as a school community. And we do find that. We find kids, if you want to be, on the school council and captain of a team and in the school play and an AP student, you can be. And we know students who are. So I think that's really, really important. One of the most interesting questions that we've got a lot, and I've received tonight a few times, is a question around AP and IB. And I think, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to answer that one a bit. I'm going to start by encouraging you to do your own research. I think when we talk about what program is best fit for our own children, it's really important that we as parents, and I am a parent, Ms. Dorsey is also a parent, we have teenagers of similar ages, really do our own research and look through and see which program is going to be the best fit. In brief, I would say that the IB program is a diploma-based program, which means it's a very specifically laid out pathway. There are some specific options, and you take those courses year after year as part of a program. When you graduate, you have an IB diploma. Here at Assumption, it's more of an a la carte system. And Ms. Dorsey and I have referenced it a bit, and feel free to cut me off at any time, Ms. Dorsey, and add in if I'm missing anything. One of the things here at Assumption is that we have the ability and flexibility where students can take the courses that they're really interested in. And if after 2 years here in grade 9 and 10, they've discovered their interest is in one pathway or another, they shift. That flexibility is really important. We spend a lot of time talking about cross-curricular. What you gain in English can be applied in science. What you gain in science can be applied in Canadian World Studies. We do that deliberately because there's a lot of options for students, and we want students to be able to explore the fullest and not be consequenced if they change their mind or pick a different pathway. I think those are really important pieces. And that a la carte system allows our students to do as many courses as they want while they're discerning their interest, move into a pathway that they believe they will like. And if that doesn't work, they can shift into another pathway. Additionally, I think that it speaks to some of the hard work that Ms. Dorsey and our team does in supporting our students as they learn about themselves. Because when we want our students to graduate through that Ontario Catholic Graduate Expectations, we also want them to graduate as students who know themselves, know their strengths, know their learning styles. And so I think that's probably one of the primary differences, is that diploma-based program versus the AP program, where you take specific subjects that you're interested in. At the end, IB students take an exam. That's part of their diploma, whereas AP students have the option to take an exam. And certainly we're going to talk to that later. And I think this dovetails a little bit into one of the most interesting questions we had, and that was about the retention rate. So one of the best questions I think we've had was, what is our retention rate? And when Ms. Dorsey and I started really looking through that, we want you to know that that's virtually impossible to answer, because our students switch and move around pathways all the time. There's such an exceptional job of planning. Students can take courses they love in maths and science and move over and discover that they also have a love of politics and human world geography. So there's such a diverse group, and people move back and forth pretty regularly. It's really hard to talk about retention rate because our students don't often leave the program so much as shift their direction. Am I missing anything, Ms. Dorsey?
No, I think I would agree with that. And I do know, just to add to that, though, is it's a significant amount of our population now that is enrolled in at least one AP program here at Assumption. So it's not an exclusive program in that sense. We have a number of students who, some have all 5 APs or more, and some less, and they're all kind of doing their own thing the way they want to do it. So again, it's really difficult to put down a number in terms of retention from grade 9 all the way up.
And one of the things I'm gonna add to that a little bit is the way we plan here at Assumption. So one of the things that we do, and I've been exceptionally impressed with as I walked into the building, is we help plan our students so that they are able to take grade 12 courses in grade 11 through very specifically designed pathways. Sometimes that option is in the French department. Sometimes that option is with Canadian World Studies. Sometimes our students switch and move things around so that they're able to do that in their English courses, because our grade 11 English program is actually an AP grade 12 program. And so our students are able to experience a wide range of subjects and styles throughout their time here, not only in grade 9 and 10 and 12, but also through grade 11 as well. And it's really well done the way and I'm going to use Canadian World Studies as an example, where Canadian World Studies classes are able to bring some of the experiences that students will learn in their grade 12 course through their grade 10 careers in civics, grade 10 history, and grade 9 geography. So I think that also speaks to that flexibility and the difference maybe between AP here at Assumption and IB. You know what? One of the other questions I'm getting a lot, I can see here, is around transportation. So I think if you don't mind, I'm going to speak a bit to that. Transportation for those students who live in the Assumption boundary is provided. Short and simple, if you're in the boundary of transportation and you would get a bus, normally you'll get a bus. If you are out of our boundary, transportation is the responsibility of the parent community and the students' families. So I will say that sometimes people will say, well, that's really hard for me. I'm working, and certainly I appreciate that. What we've had a lot of our students do is they've done carpooling with a variety of families. But what's really interesting is many of our students are taking public transportation. And I know that at first glance, we think, and again, I'm a parent, we think, oh, they're a little young to be doing public transportation. But what we have found is that those students have learned an exceptional amount of confidence. And by the time they leave us going to post-secondary, we look at a number of post-secondary schools that provide bus passes as part of their student activity fee. And so students are taking buses to get to and from school when they leave us. So this becomes a really good practice. They might do carpooling in grade 9 or grade 9 and 10. And then by grade 11 and 12, they're using city transportation and navigating through, which certainly supports their transition into post-secondary. Ms. Dorsey, I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about some of that transition into post-secondary, just a bit about some of the skill set.
Absolutely, yeah. So that actually goes hand in hand with one of these questions that I'm seeing here. What are the benefits of being in the AP program? And so there are a lot of benefits of being in the AP program.
We have a playlist dedicated to it, I believe.
We have a whole playlist that talks about it. But there are benefits that relate to each grade, if you will. So once you're in the older grades, meaning 11 and 12, the senior grades, there are benefits to the AP program. For example, you can opt to take AP exams. And again, that might be beneficial because not only does it give you practice at writing exams that a lot of students going into post-secondary would want. Sometimes it gives you exposure to university. All of them will give you exposure to university content in high school, which again is something that many students would want to have, because then going into post-secondary, it will have been their second time through the course. And I'd say almost all the students that we have graduating from the AP program feel that they have been very well prepared and ready and able to do the university courses that they're enrolled into. So not only does it better prepare them for first year courses and give them exposure to writing exams that, especially in these COVID years, might not be something that a lot of students have
experience opportunity to do a university exam in high school. I really believe it. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. So not only does it give you exposure to writing exams and being very well prepared for the content that they're going to experience in first year university, but they also, if they wish, have an opportunity to apply for transfer credits in their university that they're going into. And a transfer credit is basically an equivalency to a first year university course based on how well they do on their AP exam, which they've chose to write. So those are some really great benefits at the senior level. But for most of you who are probably thinking, what about my child who's going into grade 9? What are some of the benefits for grade 9 students? The benefits for that is that we're working. That's step one to head to those senior years. And in grade 9, again, very much a discernment year. We're trying to start off and train students to be those kind of learners. So we have a lot of critical thinking skills that we try to put into AP courses. We try and enhance a lot of those learning skills that we were talking about with, time management and organization and initiative and all those things, collaboration. We try and build all those learning skills into the courses in grade 9 and 10. And we try and this, in my opinion, the biggest benefit of being in a grade 9 AP class is the fact that we cluster the students together with other students who also have interests in that same subject area. So they're surrounded by students who are like-minded as they are, like-minded individuals who also have similar interests. And I think that makes for a very good learning environment and experience in grade 9. Being around students who you feel you have things in common with makes it a very safe environment. And it leads to a lot of really rich conversation and discussion in class and friendships, frankly.
Yeah. And, I think we often hear as parents, oh, I worked in a group and I really, I was carrying the whole group. I felt like I was leading all the time. And I really wish someone had sort of challenged me a bit. And that's a big advantage when you're with other students who are going to challenge your ideas. And I think it speaks to the confidence our students have when they leave in grade 12, because they've spent 4 years with people who are interested in the same things, who are challenging them, who are bringing them to a place where they're learning differently. They're coming in fast and furious now. One of the questions we have is how the advanced placement course is different than the academic courses. And I'm actually going to wait on that one, because I think, Ms. Dorsey, one of the things that we do in our roundtable discussion coming up, we spend a bit of time talking about that from each subject specific perspective. So I'm going to encourage you in about 20 minutes or so to stay online with us, because we're going to answer that question deliberately. One of the other questions that I have here is, are we allowed to take above grade level courses? How fast paced is it? Can we take courses ahead of time? Can we take exams ahead of time? And I'm going to speak a bit to that. We've talked about the flexibility. I would say here at Assumption, once you pass grade 10, there is absolutely an option to move to those grade 12 programs, especially in some of our subject areas. With prerequisites, obviously, science and math will be a little bit of a different pathway. But in our Englishes and Canadian World Studies courses and our moderns courses, that option does become available. That speaks to the flexibility and planning that we have, and actually speaks to another question, because one of the questions is that in grade 8, there are people who come in and advise students about pathway plans and options. What does that look like for an AP student? And I'm super glad Ms. Dorsey is here, because here at Assumption, the person who helps pathway plan for our students, the person who answers their questions about courses and changing pathways and what option will look best for them, is Ms. Dorsey.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer that question, can we take above grade courses? The answer is absolutely. And that's, again, part of the pathway planning, working backwards, right? Grade 9, 10, it's pretty laid out for you. There are some electives there, but for the most part, it's, all the grade 9s and 10s are almost taking all the same kinds of things. Yep. And then in grade 11, where it really opens up, we start to see students that, will say, I really want to go down the social science pathway. What can I take at the AP level, or what can I take at any level, actually, that will enhance that, or, really give me a taste of everything that social science has to offer. So we have a lot of senior level AP courses that students do download into their grade 11 year. Yep. The comparative politics course is one, and the world issues course in geography is another very popular one.
Statistics, we just started this year with that plan as well. So students who, depending on their schedule, are able to complete their grade 11 AP course in semester 1 are able to take their grade 12 statistics course in semester 2. So that speaks to, I think, some of the school planning that Assumption does to give people that fast-paced option. I think sometimes people wonder about doing summer school or night school in order to sort of fast forward. And that isn't necessarily an option here, in part because of the way AP extensions and AP curriculum can be downloaded. So, Ms. Dorsey, I know we often talk, and we will talk about it a bit in our roundtable, about what curriculum looks like. What does grade 9 look like? And if we're not talking about skills, because I know we're going to talk about that a little later, we're talking a bit about content. Could you maybe reinforce or explain why a summer school grade 10 course is not the same as taking an in-class grade 10 AP course? That it's not about where it's done, that it's rather about the curriculum and the downloading of information that's done.
Mm-hmm. So in the AP courses, especially I'd say most of the downloading gets done in the senior years in terms of content. So, and that allows the grade 9 and 10 pre-AP courses to again, be a safe spot for students to really explore, and it allows it to be a very much a discernment year, because it's not so much that we're downloading a tremendous amount of content into those courses.
Yeah.
It's more we're building the skill set needed in order to be in a senior level course that will have some additional content added to it, right? Because that does add to the rigor of the course, and
Yes.
so that they having those skills in place at a junior year will help train and prepare them to be in a senior level AP course. So that's really important. In terms of content, though, often what we will do, especially in the senior years, so like we said before, the Ontario curriculum is covered in every AP course, no matter what. And often that's a big question I get from parents a lot, actually, is, well, if we're fitting in some extra content, what is it that you're taking out? And the answer is nothing. We aren't taking anything out of the Ontario curriculum. It gets covered as much as it would in any other university level or academic level course. What we do is we add another layer, I guess you could say, of AP, what we call extensions. And sometimes it's content-based extensions, sometimes they're skill-based extensions, and we embed them within the course, within the curriculum, the existing Ontario curriculum, where it fits most naturally and where we see fit. So I teach biology here at Assumption, and so, for example, we have some AP content that's not included in the Ontario curriculum, and what we do is we build it into both the grade 11 and the grade 12 biology course. We split it up over 2 years, because that's where it fits best. Sometimes it fits best in grade 11 units. Sometimes it fits more naturally and best in the grade 12 course. And B, so it's not so rigorous, so that students have, 2 years
Yes.
to cover the material. So it becomes a lot more manageable and a lot more relevant to them, because again, we're trying to place it where it fits best in the Ontario curriculum.
Thank you. And I think one of the questions that we have actually flows in very well. I think sometimes I get asked, but if they're doing extra work and they're learning all this stuff, don't they get penalized for it? They don't have the same amount of time as everybody else. And one of the questions we had is about our AP multipliers. So again, you'll find this in one of our playlists, but I just want to address sort of what our multiplier is. Our AP students in all grades have a 0.05 multiplier. And I think sometimes people think that's 5%. We're just going to add 5% onto the mark. And really it's not. It is a 0.05 multiplier. So we take the base mark and it gets multiplied by 0.05. And the reason we do that is what I will call a compensation, an awareness of the extra depth and breadth that our students are putting in. And I think that it's important to note that if our students weren't putting in the additional skill set, the additional content, and the quick pace, because really to add that extra depth and breadth, we are moving at a much faster pace. That doesn't allow students to have the same time to absorb the concept. And so what we're doing is providing a compensation that balances out and reflects the mark that they would have received likely if they had had additional time to absorb that content. And so what our students have through our school is flexible pathway planning, flexible and really specific and intentional curriculum development across the years. And then they have what I would call this multiplier as part of a recognition of the extra depth, breadth, time, and pacing that they're putting into their studies, which reflects what their mark likely will be if they weren't putting all that additional time in. And so I wanted to make sure that I addressed that, because we did have a few questions on the multiplier, and I wanted to make sure that I answered that. One of the interesting questions we've had is about post-secondary, and we try not to spend too much time on post-secondary, because having both of us gone through this process recently with our own children, we know there was a lot of focus on grade 9, but we want to address that piece. Universities do not look at AP potentially any differently than anybody else, with some exceptions. So the mark that they get from us is the mark that they see. So a student who is taking university level English and a student who's taking university level English with AP will send off a mark that has the same course code. So universities will not know that they took AP per se. Where it has a lot of value is in those supplementary applications. So for example, the University of British Columbia asks students if they've taken a course at the highest level of rigor in their school. And that's where that AP program comes into play, because answering those supplemental applications is really important to address and acknowledge where our students have taken those courses. And that's something they do as they're going through their university application process, their process for scholarships and bursaries. Ms. Dorsey, have I missed anything?
Oh, no, I was just going to add to that is
Yes,
I
please
know that a lot
do.
of times the focus, especially with students, is if I take that, is it's going to help me get into university? Now, that's a real big question I have. And the answer is no, probably it won't help you get into university.
No,
I mean,
our students are getting into university. They're interested and engaged. They have the marks just by the nature of their excitement with academics.
but my
Yes,
answer
go
to
ahead.
them is once you do get into university, I think you're going to be a lot more comfortable knowing
Yes.
that you've seen this content in grade 12, and knowing that you're working at a level that is a level that is appropriate and equivalent to a post-secondary level. Whereas maybe other individuals that are sitting next to you in that first year class haven't been. So it's kind of like going through something twice, right? You're always better the second time through it. And I think that's when you really appreciate it. In fact, I think a lot of students who come back after
Yes.
having been in post-secondary, they'll come back and they'll check in and say, hey, how's everything going? Reading week and all that. And that's one of the first things that they will say is I found first year to be really just a big review of what I did in grade 12 calculus. And, that's really great. I think imagine that being a first year university student with everything else that is changed and different and the stresses that are involved, and knowing that at least you've are okay with the content of your first year calculus course because you know that you've been really well prepared in high school. So, I think that's where some of the real benefit lies there is knowing that you're not going to get blindsided.
And I think for those students who have taken our exams, they have double that confidence because they know they've already been successful in working and doing an exam at that university level as well. I've had a really interesting question tonight around studying a bachelor's degree in film and TV. And so there's a lot of questions around, do we have media arts courses? Do we have communication technology courses? And do those things have an AP focus? So I'm going to speak a bit about AP does not have the AP media arts focus right now. They have visual arts. They have a variety of different programs. But here at the school, we are not offering AP media arts. We are, however, moving into computer science principles, which is along the computer technology route. But in terms of specifically involving film and TV, actually, if you look in, I'm trying to remember which picture it is, you'll see we have a room with a green screen. And if you look through some of our playlist towards the bottom, you will see an interview with our present students and teachers. And actually our communications information technology class is the one that put that together for us. So specifically AP focused, no, not yet actually. I'll say that if they offer it, we'll probably be ready to engage with it. But no, but we do have a wide variety of courses and options. And if you, again, through our playlist, you'll see a video about our communications technology department and our arts department. So between them, I'm sure you'll be able to find at least in part what you're looking for. And please come and see us if we need, once you're here, because if there's something we can add, we're always ready to add things. Okay, Miss Dorsey, I'm just going to go through. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Actually, I'm going to do two questions because the question I have right now is about MyBlueprint. In MyBlueprint, what do you want the students to pick? So I'm just going to jump back. If you are from a school that is not from Halton Catholic District School Board, you will not be filling out a MyBlueprint. You will solely be going to gobluego.ca, which is our website, and filling out the application process there. Once you have been accepted into the program, we will contact you with registration information. So if you're wanting to register with us to fill out that application, you're going to do that from gobluego.ca. If you are filling out MyBlueprint from a school such as Corpus Christi or Notre Dame, they will not have the AP options on there. You have to fill in your Corpus Christi and Notre Dame MyBlueprint and their registration, and you have to go to goblugo.ca and fill out our AP application as well. Once you've been accepted to the program, we will be able to migrate that application over. But Ms. Dorsey, for those students who are at our 6 associate schools and our virtual school focused on those 6 associate schools, what are they doing with MyBlueprint?
So I know this is always a question we get every year because the AP application is going to be due December 10th, I believe. And option sheets at the schools are going to be due December 13th. And nobody's going to hear back about the AP applications until January 16th or so.
17th,
So the question
yes.
always is, what am I supposed to put
Yes.
down on my option sheet if I don't know if I'm accepted yet? The answer is put down what you would like,
Yes.
or what you are hoping to take. Like, put down your first choice. If you applied into the AP program and you'd like to take AP, English, science, math, whatever, put that down and on your MyBlueprint. And after applications have been all submitted and the AP committee has met and acceptances have been given out, I then will personally go through each of the applicants' schedules, and I will make sure that they are enrolled in the AP courses in which they have been accepted into. So put down what you think you would like as a first preference, and I will then go over it and double check it once the applications have been, acceptances have been given out.
And last year, with 55% of our grade 9 student population in AP, Ms. Dorsey was very busy, and so we are very blessed to have her here in our guidance department. One of the great questions we have here is about the AP program and what its components are. So does it require a certain number of community service hours? Does it require being involved in a sport? Does it involve being involved in an arts program? And so I think in general, I will say no. Our AP program is a function of the courses that you take here at Assumption. So if you choose to take English at the AP level, when you've been accepted in English at the AP level and you continue English all the way through, you are in our AP program. There's no requirement for all those things. Having said that, what Ms. Dorsey referenced earlier is very true in this building. Our students are everywhere. They are involved in everything. And I've been at schools where we talk about good busy, keeping our students busy and engaged and happy to be at school. And Mr. McDougall referenced that when we got here this evening. He talked about the more students are engaged in school, the more excited and involved they are, the better they do. And we find that to be true for our students as well. So while there is no requirement to be involved in an extracurricular sport or activity, no requirement for community service hours, that is an IB piece of their diploma program. Here, we have students who want to be engaged. We have students who want to be involved. They want to do everything. I can ask for a volunteer, and I have many, many, many people for every type of volunteer need I have. And I think that speaks to, again, what Ms. Dorsey has spoken of, the great nature of the program, the ability of our students to be organized and keep it all together. And I think it speaks to the other side of that, which is those students who are in competitive programs that are not involved in the school. They might be competitive dancers or athletes of some kind, can do both. We're able to make those accommodations and help them through that process. And again, that's part of what Ms. Dorsey does in her job. And did I cut you off? You looked like you were going to say something, and then I kept talking, Ms. Dorsey. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just listening.
And I think I have one more question here right now, and we're just wrapping up. We're getting close to doing our roundtable discussion. The question involves coming in from another area. So for example, if the student wanted to apply, they attend Canadian Martyrs or they attend Holy Rosary, but they're not in our area, please apply to the AP program. If you attend any one of the Halton Catholic District school boards, please apply to our program if you're interested in applying. And then we'll discuss what that registration looks like in cross-boundary or cross-border as we go through the process. you are a member of Halton Catholic, we want to invite you to remain a member of Halton Catholic. And if you are coming to us from a private school or the public school board, we're excited to welcome you too. We have many of our students who have found a wonderful community here, and staff as well. I can speak for myself about how much I enjoy working with such amazing, wonderful, and dedicated people, and some pretty incredible students. So I think you'll find that here at Assumption, we have a program ready for everyone, especially with our AP program. I'm going to tell you that we have received so many questions this evening, and I'm looking through them as we've been talking, and they are, for the most part, all answered in our video playlist. So if you go to gobluego.ca, you will see a little letter from myself along with a 2-part instruction. We are now in part 2. You've clicked on here, you're here. We're so happy to have you. If you've come here a little later, please know that this session has been recorded and will be posted on our YouTube video site tomorrow. So you'll be able to watch and get all your questions answered. Part 1 of this session involves the YouTube playlist that you can also find on our website. And that has about, I think it has 22 videos. And those 22 videos address so many questions and perspectives, the student perspective, the staff perspective. They talk about subject-specific questions. There's so much information there. And I really invite you to spend some time wandering through it, not all tonight, but wandering through it and really getting a sense of who we are here. Because as I said earlier, this is a pretty incredible community. So now, Ms. Dorsey, unless there's something I'm missing. No? Okay. I'm going to ask Ms. R, who is our behind-the-scenes producer, to pull up our roundtable where we discussed with our department heads of all subjects some of the very questions that you've asked here tonight. Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Good evening, and welcome to our roundtable. Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to the department heads and our AP guidance counselor. We're going to speak to some of the many questions that we get about AP and the cross-curricular supports that we provide each other while here at Assumption. I'd like to start by introducing Tina Dorsey, who will be my co-round table discusser and question asker. Tina is our guidance counselor who supports our AP students, and you will likely be in contact with her frequently when your students come here. I'd like to also introduce Mr. Mario Soster. He is the department head of mathematics. I would like to introduce Ms. Juliana Kroll. She is our department head of English and Moderns. I would like to introduce Mr. John Coulterman. He is our department head of science. And finally, last but not least, I would like to introduce Mr. Matt Inglis, and he is our department head of Canadian and World Studies. So thank you all for joining us this evening.
No problem.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thanks.
And we're thrilled to have you. We've been getting a bunch of questions from our people who have registered early. And over the years, I've had many questions, as I'm sure you have had as well, Ms. Dorsey. And we'd love to maybe talk a bit about the cross-curricular components of AP, what that does, how we can support other students by taking a variety of courses, and the benefits that come with that. I think, Mario, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
One of the common questions we've had, especially this year, is around the implications and the advantages of de-streamed math and what that looks like for our AP students. So I'm wondering if you could speak to de-streaming math and AP.
From the new grade 8 curriculum introduced last year, students were introduced to many dynamic everyday life scenarios and concepts like financial literacy, budgeting within that realm, and coding, which we look at as from a computer programming view, but also an algorithmic, logical reasoning thinking point of view. So all those concepts from grade 7, the new curriculum through grade 8, were now carried through to grade 9. The disstreamed grade 9 mathematics course puts the students all together, like they were in grade 7 and 8, to learn all these curriculum topics. However, here at Assumption, we have the grade 9 AP preparation mathematics course, which now puts students that are looking towards the future of the AP pathway, those students who really are encouraged and enthused by those logical problems, those contest skill testing questions. They're not afraid of a challenge. They're not afraid to perhaps get that question wrong, but that's a learning skill because now I've learned the building block to the next challenge and the next challenge. They have that thirst for math contests. They have that love and zest for numbers and all the different topics that would be encompassed within all those concepts that carry over from grade 7 and grade 8.
So what I'm hearing you say is that AP preparation courses are run with de-streamed math as they were before we de-streamed math, and that we anticipate that our students will meet with equal success along the pathway. Am I hearing that correctly?
That is correct.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. The other question that I really get all the time, and this would likely be for all of you, is, and we say in our presentation, we actually just said, we talk about depth and breadth and all sorts of things in terms of expanding students' learning. Mr. Soster, you referenced that earlier with math tests. And I'm always interested, when I say to students, you know, we don't want you to just take one AP course. We want you to take different ones because you learn so many skills that you can apply to each of your subjects. I'm wondering if you can talk to me, and anyone please answer, what kind of cross-curricular skills your department brings to a different department? So in this case, you wouldn't be talking about the department you're chairing, but what you feel that you bring to a different department.
I would love to field this one first. Is everyone okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because science is like, especially the grade 9 science course, it's right at the central of all the different avenues of learning. We have, of course, you have to read the material, understand it. So there's literacy base. And that literacy base also expands then when we do formal lab reports. In a typical science class, we have modified or smaller lab reports. But in the AP class, we actually do 1 or 2 full lab reports. In which case, not only do they have to understand the science concepts behind it, but they have to write, you know, in third person passive. They got to know what that means. They have to use parallelism, and they have to make sure that it flows like something of high English quality would flow. And not only in that, but also in the science class, we do a lot of analysis, like using the methods that are taught in math class, where you have to write the variables, the unknowns, do conversions. So taking science is a fantastic way of all those skill sets that you learned in other classes, hopefully in other AP classes, and they can sort of culminate in different aspects of the science work that they're working on. So yeah, it's I talk to Mary all the time. So sorry, Mr. Saucer, I apologize, and Mrs. Crowell, and just to see where certain students are, what sort of vocabulary they should have at what stages, so to know what to expect of their writing skills, whether it's coming from the head of the moderns and English department, or whether it's coming from Mr. Saucer, the head of the math department.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be
Oh, sorry. See? So much excitement.
I was just going to say, yeah, I can add on to that, Mr. Coulterman. Yeah, I never really thought, but you say it so eloquently, the way in which literacy is so important in something like a science classroom, because my gut reaction was focusing on Canadian and world studies and the ways in which literature so effectively connects with Canadian and world studies. So for example, in our literature courses, especially our AP, when we get into historical theories and geographical theories, a lot of times I'll say to my students, you know, studying a piece of literature, it's just as much as studying geography of where the writer was writing, what was going on in the world at that time. So embedding the importance of history and the importance of geography, which falls under Canadian and world studies, into literature. Like I have maps in my classroom, and we talk a little bit about kind of where in the world this literature came from and how it was affected. And we have timelines, and we talk about chronology and history. So I feel that I'm always working very closely with Mr. Inglis with regards to his department and how we can feed off of each other.
And if I can add to that, it's a great question, because with AP, a lot of times the questions are asked about content and less about skill. And this is what we're speaking to right now, is that advanced placement is just a fantastic opportunity to build those cross-curricular skills, as we've been talking about. In Canadian World Studies, the 3 main areas we focus on are critical thinking, teaching students how to develop good questions that are going to guide meaningful research. And then the second area is obviously doing good research and writing, and that's obviously something that our department shares with English, but with all the departments in the schools. Learning how to do different types of research and translate that research into different forms of writing, whether it's a traditional research essay, an opinion piece, one of the various free response type questions that we get in AP. Students are able to take what they've learned in English and apply it to an advanced placement course in history or politics or geography, and vice versa. So the cross-curricular component is a major part of advanced placement. And the third area we focus on in CWS is oral communication skills. So in our AP courses, students engage in debates, oral presentations, student-led Socratic seminars, and regardless of what course you're taking, whether it's English or politics or science, you may have to present your results of a lab to the rest of the class. And so building those research, writing, and oral communication skills, those are skills that are needed in every subject area regardless of the course. And so I think that's one of the great advantages of advanced placement is as much as we're focusing on content, all of our courses are focusing on skill development in students.
And that's why I think that the base of grade 9 and 10 in the AP pathway is just so important for all of that, cross-curricular development as they go up into the grades.
Also that love of learning and looking at the unknown, starting to really investigate what they find so engaging to them. And in mathematics, you heard me earlier reference about coding. This week, we had our AP preparation grade 9 math class visit Mr. Galley, the head of technological studies, in his green screen room to check out some real coding and look at some different ways how coding actually helps us develop our mathematical logical mind. But also remember that the mathematics is all around us throughout the world, as you can see behind me here, all the subject areas, whether we realize it or not, we use math every single day.
And sorry, go ahead, Ms. Dorsey, I cut you off.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I was just going to hop on to that thought with Mr. Soster, the love of learning and that wanting to know, that genuine curiosity about wanting to know, what happens next or where did this come from? I think, for me, one of the greatest things, the greatest benefits of being in an AP class is that you're surrounded by students who also really like that subject and also want to know why. You're not, singled out or thought like, oh, am I the only one that, really wants to dive in deeper to that or wants to know how this came about or where that came from or where this theory ended up. No, everybody there does because that's why they're in AP. That's why they chose to be in that class. They love that subject. They find it interesting, and I think that's a really safe and inspiring environment for a grade 9 kid to be in.
And it's interesting because you're all talking about cross-curricular, and I think that speaks to what we say all the time in our presentations, which is we want our students to take these courses in grade 9 because we want them to discern, find their love, find their skill set, find their passion. And I think you just all spoke to that so beautifully. So thank you very much. I guess one of the questions I've always had, I'm the AP coordinator, but I haven't really been a teacher in an AP classroom like all of you have, which is how is the learning and the teaching style different between AP and any other course really? I know I speak to it about depth and breadth, but I'm thinking practically speaking, what do you do that looks different that I wouldn't know having not taught in an AP course?
I can begin if everyone's okay with that. So in Canadian World Studies, inquiry-based learning is a department goal across all of our courses, regardless of whether we're talking about an advanced placement course, an academic course, an applied course, mixed level. But there is more teacher-led instruction in some of those other programs where the teacher is establishing the learning goals, providing the focus for what curriculum content is going to be covered that day, and it is really taking on a very hands-on guided approach to student learning. In advanced placement courses in our department, it really is much more inquiry-based, where, going back to that skill piece with critical thinking, we teach students how to ask good questions, and those questions guide their investigations into course content. So students discover their own knowledge by framing these inquiry-based questions, and the teacher acts more as a facilitator and a guide, steering them in the right directions. The best example I can give you is in our grade 10 pre-AP history course. This year, one of the curriculum topics is the Spanish flu. And I asked students to come up with an inquiry question about the relevancy of the Spanish flu to all of us today. And since over the last 18 months, we've been going through the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the student questions that was developed was, what are the parallels between the Spanish flu pandemic and the COVID-19 pandemic? You know, what similarities have existed between both? What are the differences? That's a great question, and that guides student inquiry. They do the investigation. The role of the teacher is to provide them with the tools and to teach them how to conduct good research and what's a good source and what's a bad source, so that they can pursue that investigation in a authentic manner, and that they can discover that knowledge themselves. So that's just one quick example, but in terms of sort of distinguishing advanced placement from some of our other courses, it's how students engage with the material. And again, while we do inquiry-based learning in all of our classes, it's in those AP classes where students really take on a leadership role in their own learning.
I can feed off of that, Mr. Inglis. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's the same in our English classes as well. So as again, a simplistic example is just something such as students developing their own topics. So I don't provide lists of topics, whereas in perhaps a college or an applied or even academic, you know, students might need those specific guidelines of here's your choice, here's what you have to do. In an AP classroom, they really do have that freedom. You know, we've taught them the skills, they've read the literature, and I will say for English, also the reading is a little bit more independent as well, because we're dealing with students who have a love of reading. So they will go home and they will read outside of class. So that's another thing that I would say is somewhat separate from the AP pathway to other pathways. But even just something as simple as allowing a student to develop their own thesis statements and develop their own argumentation, and then go and do their research to support what they have already decided they want to prove or they want to discuss, it kind of changes the focus of something. It's more, oh, I'm going to have to stand up for a second.
To let the viewers at home know what happens here at the school. If you don't move around in the classes, the lights go off.
just like being in my class, because I never sit still. I'm always up and about, and the lights never turn off. So as I was saying, it's a different approach to their learning when they've made the choices of what they're reading, they've made the choice of what they're discussing, they've gone and they've found that research. It creates a different mentality towards the learning that they're doing, and it really gives them that ownership over, this is what I've created, less than a task where you have to do this and you have to choose one of these 3 topics, and that's your only choice. So we really allow them, because of their love of learning, we allow them to foster that love of learning.
And I just add that freedom, Ms. Cole, that you mentioned too, and that safety, Ms. Dorsey also. In math classes, you know, a lot of students are always hesitant to raise their hand or respond, or what if I make a mistake? In the AP classroom, it's, well, you know, let me try this idea. I'm curious to see what the teacher's going to think if I show this different approach. And there'll be times Mr. Coulterman knows he'll be walking down the hallway. Mr. Coulterman, come on in. Have you seen that? Oh, Mr. Soster, look at that. Oh, my goodness, you're right. There's those impromptu sessions, and the students don't get nervous about it. In other classes, non-AP classes, some students in the back goes, I didn't understand that. And then when you paused or when you jumped around, I didn't really. So there's a bit more of that anxiousness that can happen if we move in different directions. Whereas the AP students, sometimes they actually relish that, and they thrive in that little bit of unpredictability, but also that investigative nature of what, you know, that could be like if we tried this.
And I'd like to contrast what goes on in science AP versus in the English and Moderns and Canadian World Studies. There isn't as much freedom of choice of what they learn, because science is a very skill-based program. So there's certain content that has to be covered. We can't let the students choose what they cover, because on their pathway, if they go on to grade 11 chemistry or grade 11 physics, there's certain core material that they definitely have to have a great concept is. Before I go on to the next part, I just want to say I love teaching science. full stop. It doesn't matter if it's an applied grade 9 science class or an AP grade 9 science class. That being said, I appreciate that there are in different rooms because the class moves at a different pace. It moves at a different flow. And the students that are in my applied class, they're comfortable with the ebb and flow. They're comfortable with me being the person that's looking over their shoulder, making sure that they're doing the right thing, putting the date down. Whereas in the AP classroom, I've got students that want to run with ideas, and I run with them or run beside them. I don't have to be looking over their shoulder and making sure. In both of those scenarios, I am still the person making sure that the content is covered. There's not as much choice. Like if we've got to learn the structure of an atom, we're learning the structure of the atom. I don't care what you guys want to do. But it looks differently in each class, and it works well in both classes because they're surrounded by like people with like interests. And they can feed off of each other, whether it be in the applied class, who probably are applied because they struggle more and they have angst or they didn't have a good background. So they need a little bit more prodding, a little bit more time with the subject. Whereas in the AP class, they are each pushing each other to strive. So completely different classroom situations, but both to the benefit of the student to be in their pathway that corresponds to their style of learning and their loves and their interests.
Right. And so I also teach in the science department as well with Mr. Coulterman. And I think that's a really important, that was really important what you said there, Mr. Coulterman, because one of the questions I get from parents all the time is, okay, so if all this extra breadth and depth is going on, what's coming out? What's coming out of the Ontario curriculum? And the answer to that is nothing. Nothing's coming out. We're covering all of the entire Ontario curriculum as much as we would in an academic classroom. And it's just, we fit in the extensions or the skill-based extensions or the content-based extensions where it fits most naturally and in a different way. So in grade 9, I'm going to speak specifically to grade 9 because I know this is where the grade 9s are interested in, parents are interested in, but like Mr. Coulterman said, we're covering density. We need to cover density. So whether you're in AP grade 9 science or academic grade 9 science, we're doing density. But in the academic class, you know, we have a procedure, we give it out, they're in groups, they will read through the procedure, they will conduct the experiment, they will fill in their observation charts, they will answer questions, and then they would submit their handout. In an AP level classroom, we would put out material, same problem that we're doing, same experimental problem that we're trying to solve, but we don't hand out a procedure. We put them in groups, they work collaboratively, we ask them to develop their own procedure. This is what we're trying to achieve. How do you guys think we should go about doing this? So they develop their procedure, then they would get it, again, we would prove it. They conduct their experiment that they made. So again, just like Ms. Kroll was saying, there's that ownership of like, hey, yeah, I want to see if what I thought works. And so they carry out their experiment. They have to, you know, come up with an observation chart that they think would be accurate to what it is they're testing. What do I need to measure? What do I need to calculate? Is this going to be enough? Is this going to give me what I need to, you know, analyze my conclusion? They come up with their conclusion. And then back to what Mr. Coulterman said, they would continue and do a full laboratory write-up, which is something we wouldn't do necessarily in an academic classroom. Did we still cover density? Yeah, we covered density. Yep. Just like the academic class did. But now we developed it. We, you know, we conducted it ourselves. We did a full laboratory write-up. And that is way more breadth, way more depth than the other class would have done, and they enjoy it. That's the best part. They like experimentation because they like science. And that's a really great class for a grade 9 student who likes science. Hey, Mom, I did an experiment today. We made the procedure. We conducted it. Look what I did. That's great. That's inspiring, and that's what schools should be like for them.
And it's funny, you just without probably even meaning to, you just bridged to my next question, which I love. Thank you so much. I was going to ask each of you to speak to an example of what that extended depth and critical thinking and breadth looks like in grade 9. And it sounds like in science, it's really hands-on and really practical, that they're doing a lot of labs. And I wonder if maybe we could speak to some of that piece. Ms. Kroll.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I was going to come off of Ms. Dorsey's comment. Yeah, so for example, one of the things that would be different from, say, an applied or academic grade 9 class versus the AP is, of course, we're still reading a piece of literature. So for example, we're still reading maybe a Shakespearean play, or we're reading a novel. In a 1P or a 1D class, we're focusing on the elements of fiction. So we would be looking at conflict and characterization and theme and all of the, deconstructing a text. But for example, in the AP class, we also teach them an elevated understanding of critical theories. So we talk about Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis and the unconscious mind, and we talk about the id and the superego. We talk about gender theory and look at perceptions of gender, males and females in text. We also go into kind of deeper mythological theories, and we teach them about archetypes and talking about, key archetypes. So they're still deconstructing a piece of literature, but they are understanding it to a much wider breadth, and then again kind of developing their thoughts with regards to that. And also the literature that we do, I always give the example in grade 9, the 1D class or the 1P class will do a graphic novel of Shakespeare, because that's kind of at their reading level. They have that visual accompaniment. In 1D, you might do a play such as Romeo and Juliet, which is a wonderful story. The students love it. We've got all kinds of different film clips we can show them, talking about the conflicts within the families in that story and the strong themes that pertain. In the 1D AP program, we usually do a much more kind of controversial or impactful play, such as The Merchant of Venice. So then we talk about critical theories. We talk about, the characters' motivation, the psychoanalysis that goes on with some of those characters. We talk about the role of women and the ways in which women have to disguise themselves as men at the time. So we can go back in time and talk about perceptions of female in Elizabethan times. We talk about anti-Semitism through the character of Shylock. So that's something, a higher level of kind of critical engagement that they wouldn't necessarily have done in 1D. They're still going to love Shakespeare in 1D. They're still going to deconstruct the play. We're just getting a little bit more critical and a little bit more thorough in the 1D AP program. So that would be kind of my example to kind of best visualize that to parents of what their student would expect in a P versus a D versus the AP.
In grade 9 geography, there's an urban planning unit that we cover in all of our courses. And so in an academic course, for example, you're going to go over what is smart growth, what are the principles of smart growth, what are examples of good urban planning design, of bad urban planning design that don't follow these principles. And you're going to cover that in the AP course as well. But in the advanced placement course, we start off with what the principles of smart growth are, and then we actually take a walk to a neighborhood close by a plaza here in Burlington. And we don't talk about these are good examples of smart growth and these are bad examples. The students literally have to go around the plaza, supervised by the teacher, of course, and uncover for themselves what they think are these essential components of what smart growth should be. So again, it goes back to the approach to the curriculum, where there's a little more independence on the part of the student, where they take a more active role in what it is they're covering. In pre-AP Civics in grade 10, the first unit, How Should Governments Work? Students learn all about Canada's system of government. And in the pre-AP course, they take that knowledge and understanding and they apply it to a comparative analysis of the United States. What do our legislative branches have in common? What's the difference between how a prime minister becomes prime minister versus how a president becomes the president? And is one way more democratic than the other? These are just some of the examples of the higher order questioning that our AP students investigate, and some examples of the additional content that they're able to explore.
Math contests, we are encouraged for all levels, all students, but it's the AP student that sees those math contest questions embedded into daily lessons. There are those challenging problems that we may not always see in the non-AP class or the D-stream classroom, but we here at Assumption offer all the University of Waterloo mathematics contests. In addition, the Canadian Open Mathematics Challenge run by the Canadian Mathematical Society. It's a highly regarded national contest that very rarely do you see students other than the senior grades writing it. This year, we had 2 grade 9 students that were encouraged within their grade 9 AP preparation math class because they had this feeling that I know it might be difficult, but I feel I can do this. This is something I'd like to try and keep trying again in future years and keep progressing through it. But I've seen some of these questions in my class. We've challenged each other. In fact, we even have these side conversations with other students and try, did you see this question? Did you see that question? What do you think?
And
So
then they
that's
come
one
into
of the
the
ways we see
science
these.
class and ask me about these questions.
See, exactly. So
Oh,
thank you for your time.
That is, and it sounds like, again, you're almost going ahead of me. I love it. So when we talk about one of the advantages for students, I think what I'm hearing a common theme is that our students are certainly excited. They are excited about learning. What other advantages do you see? And it doesn't have to be in your own subject, and it certainly can be. When you are talking to your students, what are some of the advantages that you're seeing for students? What are they telling you? Maybe when they start in grade 9 all the way through, what do you hear from them? Because you're in the classroom, Ms. Dorsey, you're seeing them every day. And so I guess I'm just asking what they're saying to you about the advantages of the program.
I'll start off with that. I not only teach at Assumption, but I live in the Assumption community. And it is fantastic. I bump into former students. I was at a trivia night last night, a pub trivia night, and there were some former students that came up and talked to me. Some of them I taught, some of them I didn't teach. The ones I did teach, we got into conversations, and they self-reported without me prying them. They're like how prepared they were at university and how they felt like they knew what was going on. And to me, that is one of the most important takes I can get from this, is that we can provide students that know their pathways, they know what they like, and we can set them up for greater success in an environment that they're going to have a lot of other stressors. First year away from secondary school and post-secondary or anything after high school, there's different set of stressors. And if we can relieve the stress of the content and let them worry about the other stressors as they grow at that post-secondary stage, then fantastic. And like I said, the self-reported evidence seems to be all positive. And that's one of the reasons why I encourage people to take the AP. I encourage teachers to teach the AP because you get that positive experience if you're a student, and you get that positive feedback if you're a teacher.
Wonderful.
If I can jump on that point, that's the feedback that we get from students in Canadian World Studies as well. They're getting a head start from a content point of view and from a skill point perspective as well. They're engaging with course content that is above grade level. And, we've had many students come back to visit us. I just had a student come back and visit and joked about how in her environmental studies class, a first-year geography course, they were learning about the demographic transition model. That's something that's introduced in the grade 9 pre-AP geography course, and then in the grade 12 AP World Issues geography course as well. So from a content perspective, you are getting a head start by examining a lot of this material while still in high school. And then to Mr. Coulterman's point, working ahead with all of this content, even though it is fast-paced, AP courses, help students develop those responsibility, initiative, and organization skills. And when they get to post-secondary, when they get to university, they're not going to have professors chasing them for assignments and telling them, make sure you're attending class. It really is going to rely exclusively on their ability to be responsible and to self-regulate and manage their time effectively. And those are the skills that you need to have strongly developed in order to be successful in AP courses in high school, and that's what we focus on. So the advantage of working ahead with content and focusing on skill development in these areas, they help students be better prepared for post-secondary.
I can add to that too. I think it really represents the fact that we're teaching the whole student, right? And it's not just I'm just teaching you English. And I love hearing from students, we talked a little bit about this in so-and-so's class, or, I learned a little bit about this in religion class last year. And I think that that's so wonderful, because then I can reinforce to them, of course, because all of your learning is interconnected and nothing is singular. And you have to go into this world recognizing the importance of cross-curricular learning and the idea that it really does with those learning skills, which you're right, Mr. Inglis, they have those firm set of learning skills. But that's always something I love, when they're like, and then I can kind of say to them, I bet you didn't think we'd be talking about psychology in literature class, or I bet you didn't think we'd be talking about historical facts in religion or in literature class, but they do, they combine. And it's so important, I believe, that having them be aware of the importance of not just singularly looking at one course. And like you said, Ms. Thomas, not just taking one course in AP, recognizing the importance of taking in grade 9 several courses, so that you can recognize how they really do blend so well together.
And sorry, if I can just, because Ms. Kroll, you just reminded me of like one of my, sorry, I just got excited. One of my favorite memories from last year. I had a student in my a pre-AP civics class send me an email late at night asking if I had ever read George Orwell's Animal Farm. And she wrote this email where she basically gave me a synopsis of what Animal Farm is all about, and then concluded the email by saying, I think you would really like it, because it reminded me of a lot of the things we've learned in pre-AP civics about authoritarianism and how human rights are violated in these systems of government and how democracy can go away. And like in that moment, late at night, she was like making these connections between English and our civics class. And I just think that's a credit to the program. That's a credit to the collaboration that occurs between our departments in this school. And it's a reflection that students really are enjoying and loving these courses, and they're making those connections.
Yeah.
So who did the student compare you to? Napoleon or Napoleon? I want to know.
We'll save that for another day.
Ms. Dorsey, you were going to add something, I think.
Yeah, I was. I was going to say that, again, one of the things that I think is a huge, huge benefit in the classroom, and again, this is me talking as a teacher in the classroom, is a lot of the benefit is in the discussion. I'm not even talking about the content or the, skill-based or the curriculum or the extensions. It's in the rich discussion that happens between students on a daily basis about anything it is that you're teaching. You have to remember, you're in a classroom with 20 to 30 individuals who love this subject. I can't tell you how many times I have to end my lesson saying, okay, that's enough, people. We have to move on. We need to move on. We can't talk about Darwinism anymore right now, because we have, and that is great. I think that's how kids learn. That's what they remember, right? That's what they remember. That's what they take forward. And if you've had a 20-minute discussion about atomic theory with someone, you're friends for life. It's like you can make these connections on all sorts of levels, academic being another level for them. And it's good for them to know that's healthy, that's good. There's others like you around that also really think this is cool.
You made me think, go ahead.
Just today, I just finished a lesson on modern quantum theory in grade 12 AP. Not to scare off any grade 9s. And one of the girls said, Mr. Coulterman, I'm a part of Girls for Engineering program, and I wrote a piece on quantum computing. She goes, would you like me to send it to you? And I'm like, yes. And then all of a sudden the other girls are like, what sort of program are you in? Tell us about it. And then everyone in the class, she sent it to me, and then everyone said, well, can you send it to us too? And then they talked about it. And while they were looking at it, they were like, oh, I really like your use of the colon here. They're talking about the hyphen and the parallelism. And they were talking about the Oxford comma versus this. And I'm like, this is freaking amazing. And it just shows that energy. I think that girl existed in my classes before AP, but she would have never mentioned that stuff. It would have never come to fruition. It would have never been shared so openly in that environment.
That's another thing I was going to mention too. I find it so key in our classes to have student-led discussions, to have, and I think Mr. Inglis, you said this a little bit too, like where like they are taking the onus for their own learning, but they're also taking the onus for like the teaching in the classroom. So they work collaboratively almost every other day in my classroom. Oh, every time I talk, my wife's inevitable. Seriously, okay. So that's something that I do a lot, and I tell them from day one, like, you're not going to be hearing my voice as the majority of the voice in this room. It's you guys. You're teaching each other. You're working collaboratively. We're working online collaboratively. So yeah, that's just that idea of them feeding off of each other and teaching each other. As a teacher, kind of, you get to kind of take that step back and kind of watch it all. And again, like you're right, it's true, Mr. Coltman, it's sometimes a little bit more in the senior grades, but if you kind of establish that in the pre-AP programs, then they're just going through their learning in high school knowing I have to take assertiveness and I have to take ownership over all of this, and it just becomes such a natural inclination to them.
It becomes the norm.
Exactly.
Being an advocate for your own learning becomes the norm, because you look at the people around you and they're being advocates for themselves.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I guess I have this, maybe it's an odd question, but what is each of your individual sort of favorite part about your own AP subject? I mean, we all went into our subjects for a reason. There was something that called to us, but is there something that's your favorite part?
Science is the best. That's all. I like Canadian World Studies and English and math, but
So for science, for me, my favorite part about teaching the AP course as opposed to teaching the university level course is how much more time I spend on labs. I assume, and I'm right, that the kids who are taking the AP science, they're there because they love experimentation. They love, the process of it. They love that. And so, reading a concept from a book, understanding it is cool, but reading a concept and then testing it and doing it, living it, doing it, they like that even more. And so I know in my pre-AP grade 11 class, I do double the amount of labs that I do in a regular class. And every chance we get, every theory we learn, every, principle that we talk about, where possible, we do it too. We try and do the hands-on part of that so they can see it. When you do something, when you do it, you learn it.
Amazing. And I am going to ask Mr. Inglis, Ms. Kroll, and Mr. Coltman as well, but I do have one question, because as a parent, I would guess as soon as you say I'm going to do lots of labs, the concern might be you didn't do a lot of labs last year or the year before. You might not know what they're doing. So maybe this is an obvious question, but I'm going to assume that there's a lot of preparation and that the students really are well prepared for all these next steps, as opposed to this sort of expectation that they're gonna know that. So if you wouldn't mind just addressing that, because I do think that my daughter is recently into high school, and I think about the difference between what she learned in her elementary years versus I know what they're learning in the secondary years. Can you just speak a bit to the science prep part, and then of course I'll go back to the question around favorite parts of your subject as well. Did I freeze?
No,
you're okay.
We were just being polite, waiting for someone
I
else.
appreciate that. Thank you. So yes, they go through lab preparation?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, it's the ebb and flow of different class. So within an applied class, we have to spend more time on safety, or an academic class, we do more time on safety, more time on the basic skills, because you don't have the general interest. And when you don't have interest, you don't have as much attention. And when you don't have as much attention, you have to repeat yourself more. Whereas in the AP class, you have their attention because they chose to be there. They want to learn at a high rate. So we still go over the exact same skills. It's just the pace at which we go over them is much quicker. So they get from point A to point C. All classes go from point A to point C, but the AP classes get there much quicker. So then they have more time to look into more labs and more activities.
Thank you so much. Mr. Inglis, Mr. Soster has been able to log back in. I don't know if we're able to bring him back in, Maybe, well, Ms. Kroll, could you tell us maybe some of your favorite part about
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a little biased, Mr. Coulterman. I'm going to say that I love literature the best.
I know.
And we've had some wonderful discussions about critical theory. We were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs earlier this week in class. But yeah, I do have a real joy of literature, and I just love instilling that joy in young people, getting them to read books that they wouldn't otherwise ever read, ever pick up. But I always say to students, you don't have to love what we read, but you have to appreciate it. You have to recognize its validity. You have to recognize its timelessness, and kind of reinforcing the importance of that universal collectiveness, the importance of theme, the idea that, you know, a story can stand the test of time and be hundreds of years old, yet still be relevant today. And that's something I always try and do in my classes, is kind of bring it to today. Like, we're reading for example, a Shakespearean text or a poem from the Romantic period, etc. Well, why are we doing this? There has to be an answer to that. And so I always try and reinforce that. And when I can kind of grab a student and have them realize, oh, this is really interesting. Or when I have a student come in the next day and be like, oh, I saw something on TV and it reminded me of that archetype we had talked about. It just kind of swells my heart, because they're recognizing and understanding just the importance of storytelling and the importance of stories as a universal collective. And that's why I love science and math and all that stuff. I have a special spot in my heart for literature. Yeah. So that's I would say my favorite thing about being an AP literature teacher.
And what students find.
Soster, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm back now. Thank you very much. When students see our excitement, it starts to be infectious, because they're excited to start. But when they see the teacher excitement, and you know, I can remember more than 10 years ago the idea of this AP program. What would it look like? How would it run? And here we are 10 years later, and going forwards and faster, and still thinking, wow, you know what? This is amazing. It's just so exciting. And we look at mathematics, the stream in grade 12, the AP Calculus AB, and then the introduction last year of the new AP Statistics course. And this year it grew, and with more ideas and thoughts of what does AP Stats look like? Well, that's our everyday life. Exactly what Mr. Inglis was talking about, looking at how the data influences our life decisions. So now you're putting together all the areas. So when you see the teacher so excited, and with your excitement it grows together, all of a sudden that love just can't end, especially in the world of math.
And Mr. Soster, your mention of growth made me realize I forgot to mention too, in our English Pathway program, we also provide or have both AP English courses, AP Literature and AP Language. So if students are English Pathway students, they do have the opportunity to take 2 AP exams rather than just the grade 12 course. So that's speaking of growth.
I was going to ask you, because I know you reference Shakespeare and poems and different things, but that grade 11 course is all on nonfiction and language and rhetoric. So even in English, there's a place for all learners and on all interests, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mr. Inglis, I think I've cut you off.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I think the common theme here that everyone has brought up, and I want to echo, is my favorite part about AP is that everyone who's in that classroom wants to be there. We're all products of the subjects we teach. I'm a student of history and politics. That's my passion. That's what I love. And those students who are taking those senior AP courses are there because they want to be there. And so it's challenging, it's rewarding, it's engaging, and you just get to dig deeper with students into content, and you see their enthusiasm on a day-to-day basis. It's infectious, and it's reciprocated on my part. The one example I can give is in my grade 12 AP Politics course, we study 6 different countries, and one of the things I say at the beginning of those courses is, we're learning all these different components about China or about Russia, but like going back to what Ms. Kroll said, you have to bring it back to the real world. So when you see or hear stories in the news about any of these countries that remind you of things we have learned in this course or concepts we've learned in this course, we want to bring them into the classroom. And I can't tell you how many times, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll get woken up and it's a student who says, "Sir, did you just see the news about," and then fill in the blanks. And And that's what I love. As much as I don't like being woken up, what I love is that students love the courses they're taking. They want to be there. They're engaged. They're enthusiastic. And you learn together. You truly do. We get to look at all different types of topics. And even though it's in a fast-paced manner, like I said, it's manageable because everyone wants to do it, and that initiative takes us through.
It's amazing, and I've been very lucky to be witness to it myself. Surprisingly enough, we've been 45 minutes already. The time has flown. I have one more question, and then a bit of a brag maybe. My one question in one sentence only, and I'm looking at all of my verbose people here. In one sentence only, what piece of advice, or what is the one thing you might tell a parent about sending their student to our school, our AP program, your subject, that one piece of advice or information that you think would be very beneficial for those that are watching us?
I could say very simply, if you love to read, you're welcomed here, or you should be here, something like that, you know.
And it doesn't matter what they love to read. Anything.
That's true. Anything. Yeah. Like if you're an avid reader and you love absorbing information, then yeah, come on down.
Come on down. Mr. Coulterman.
The 3 R's, new 3 R's. I just made them up right now. Rigor, relevance, sorry, I'm saying that word wrong.
Relevance.
Relevance, all right.
There you
Rigor.
go.
See, that's why I shouldn't make things up on the spot. Rigor, relevance, and relationships.
Oh, excellent,
If
sir.
you have something rigor and worth learning, people will be attracted to it.
Yeah.
If you have something relevant, like Matt was saying, people will see how they can use it in their lives. And lastly, school is a place about making relationships.
Yeah.
And these students have an opportunity to make relationships with people from different backgrounds, but with like-minded love of learning.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think that was 5 sentences.
I was just going to say
3 words, 5 sentences, but 3 words.
questioning why and working out the how. The math pathway for AP is for you.
That's a good one.
It's impossible for me to answer this in one sentence. No, listen, regardless of what a student's timetable looks like in grade 9, you are coming to a school where staff genuinely care about the learning and well-being and the whole development of that child. It's a great school community, excellent relationships, between staff and students. There's a variety of different extracurricular programs that are tied to many of our departments and courses, which we can speak to on other occasions. But the one thing I would say about AP is, students have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The AP program has proven to be successful here because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be growing the way it is. And, I didn't go into teaching to not help students be successful. Those students who enter our classrooms, we want them to be successful and we give them the tools to be successful in our courses. And so AP is a great program at our school, but it's one of many amazing programs that we offer here.
Definitely more than one sentence. Yes.
Yeah, that's 10 sentences. And just to piggyback on that, and it's again something that I think is another question I get a lot from parents. Oh, I'm really nervous about going into AP because I like everything, or I don't know what my passion is, or I don't know. And it's important to understand that the nature of the program is very flexible.
Yeah.
So I have a number of students that's, they've started off thinking they're going to be in math and science and continue on as an engineer. And then by the time they get to grade 11, they've taken Miss Kroll's writer's craft and have come to me and said, I'm being a journalist. And we've switched it all up and we've changed everything around. And now they're continuing on in that direction. And, it's not like some of the other programs that exist out there where, you're taking this, you're into the end. No, you can start off one way, you can switch back, and you can follow your passions. You can follow what you like. And that to me makes it a very, very appealing and flexible program.
And I think from a guidance perspective, that's a really important thing for parents to know, right? I think we come into high school and we think one thing, and knowing that we have options and flexibility is certainly helpful. My little brag is about how much I enjoy working with all of you. I cannot tell you how much I have appreciated your time. And this 52 minutes has flown by. I did not think, I didn't think we could, well, I should have known we could have spoken so much. But I didn't think it would happen so quickly. And I cannot thank you enough for your time and your expertise. I will say to those watching, if you haven't yet looked at our YouTube playlists, if you haven't looked to see what each of these amazing departments has to offer, they all they all have a video or two that discuss pathway options, that discuss courses, that discuss some of the amazing things that are happening here at Assumption. And I think that there is nothing better than being a person who works in this building. It's an amazing place to work. And I think the students who come here are blessed to have you all as adults in their lives. So thank you so much for your time. I'm very grateful. And that's it for everybody watching. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ms. Thomas. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So thank you very much to those of you who are still with us. I know we're running about 15 minutes longer than potentially expected, but I wanted to do a little thank you this evening to our department heads, Ms. Kroll, Mr. Soster, Mr. Coulterman, Mr. Inglis, Ms. Dorsey, our guidance person with the AP portfolio, Mr. McDougall for his opening today, Miss R, who is our behind the scenes producer. You can't see her, but she's running the show this evening. And I'd like to also thank our department heads who have contributed videos who are not in our AP program, but they also have an amazing, department to add to our students' options. There are exceptional programs here at Assumption, and our AP students can be part of the AP program and still excel in business, part of the AP program and still do our computers technology, part of the AP program and still be part of the arts. And I'm thrilled that they were able to provide those videos as well. And I'd like to thank our students. We have a number of current and former students who've put together items for us, including the commercial you might have seen on our social media. That was done by our students, and as well as some of the things on our playlist. I know I said at the end of the round table and I said at the beginning, but if there's any information you are looking for, it's probably to be found on our playlist this evening. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for giving us all those questions. I hope we were able to answer them for this evening. Again, our application is available on gobluego.ca gobluego.ca as of now, and it is open from now until December 10th. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to email me directly. Thank you again for this evening. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.